Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? Welcome back to another Wednesday Night Live. And I'm going to have a couple guests I'm going to be bringing in here in just a few minutes. We're going to be talking about our picks between these four matchups, and they were doozies. But yeah, you're looking at the bracket. This is bracket part two of the uh, makeup era, and we're going to do the bracket for the non-makeup era slash remakeup era after this. So this is the part two, and you see the bracket here on the screen. And to go ahead and pull this down, let me find where I do it at. I always forget. There it is. Hey guys and gals, how's everybody doing? Wednesday night and midweek. We've made it midweek and back for another Wednesday Night Live. And I hope you guys have been enjoying the content I've been putting up. Been putting up some drum covers. Been having fun making those. And it's Boom Tap Tuesday. And somebody said you need to make this a weekly thing. I'm going to try to make it a weekly thing because it doesn't take me very long to do those. It takes about 30 minutes or so and very minimal editing. So I can usually get one done in about an hour and a half. So that's not too bad. I said in the last video that I was going to do Firehouse next. I'm not sure if I'm going to do Firehouse or not. I'm kind of rethinking that. I think I might go give the 80s some love and do a non-makeup era song. So I hadn't really quite thought about it. I'm trying to fully figure out what I'm going to do next before I do that. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in who we're going to have hanging out with us tonight via the live chat. Before I do that, I want to bring attention to these people here, my Patreons. You can be a Patreon too at patreon.com/in my head. And Patreons, thank you for being patient with me. I am getting back to the exclusive and behind the scenes and hangout comments, hangout videos. I am going to be getting back to that, but I thank you guys and gals, names scrolling across the screen, for supporting the channel on over there on patreon.com/in my head. So speaking of Patreon, we have Mr. James Dean here. James has been in quite a few Patreon hangouts, and we've hung out together, and he's even been in some videos that started off as Patreon hangouts and became live videos. James, it's been a while. How you doing, man?
Hello, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
It's going good. And hello to all my fellow viewers in Canada. James is in Canada, and my other fellow viewers. I think I have a few other viewers from Canada. And so international. I'm international, baby. Speaking of international, I've got next up Mr. Glen Walker from Tales of a Kiss Geek, all the way across the big pond in Dublin, Ireland. How you doing, Mr. Glen?
Dublin. It's been a while, Brand. I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
We're real good.
Doing
man.
great.
Thanks for staying up. It's what, about 1 o'clock there?
I was having a great night, and then I saw like all of a sudden YouTube was telling me Brand is going live in 30 minutes. So yeah, fuck, I'm gonna be here.
Well, it's good to have you. We'll hopefully get in and out of here in about an hour. And another one of my Patreon subscribers, Jesse Ray, had talked about possibly being in. I don't see him jump in. I haven't seen him jump into the green room yet on my StreamYard. I'll try to keep an eye on him for that. But we'll go ahead and get started. I want to first start off with talking about how many we had on the panel for this. We had quite a bit of viewers. Dogs, listen to that. God love them. So we had 42. George Savastino, Chad Casey, Jesse Ray, Roger Bennett, Jackie Beagle, Emily Graziano, Thomas Hubner, Paul Bertolino, Eddie Thompson, Wolf Baines, Tales of a Kiss Geek, John O, James Dean, Skull Starter 2008, Angelo Scanzelli, Justin Churchy, Jay Reiner, Rome Loves Dan, John B. Good, Logan Sievert, Starman 2112 of Kings, Jay Reed, Super Kiss 1300, Travis Mulgard, Ears for Days. Seeing some of you in the chat already. Hard Rock Reverie, Trey Robinson, Jeremy Kimona, King of the Nighttime World, Mikkel D, Dark Light, David Martins, Flaming Youth, Roger DJ86, MD Smith Comics, Matthew, Rick from It's All For You Demon, KA Collector 72, Tony P1, Beer League, Tender 21, David King, Hockey Nut 31, Ken Guliak, and at the last minute, Armand 1972. Armand, I did get your picks in, man. Got them in today. He said sorry he was late, but you got them in. So I want to just hit the ground running on this and start because I want to leave room for conversation since there's 3 of us and room for everybody in the chat. Want to say hi to everybody that's in the chat. I see Dark Light, Emily Graziano, Angelo Scanzelli. Who else? Ears for Days, Jay Lee. Let's see who else is there. Ronnie Parker, Space Ace Ron. Good to see you. And there's Tales of a Kiss Geek. He was in the chat earlier. I saw you guys chatting it up. I was in the background trying to get things ready. I had to print stuff out, turn my lights on, adjust my camera. 15 minutes ago, I was in the pool behind my house. So I literally have been out of the pool. I think my feet are still drying. I've literally been out of the pool like 15 minutes. Don't have many pool days left. We'll have a hot August, and then it'll get cold real quick here in the South. That's how.
Thanks for the reminder.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
We don't have much summer left, guys. So let's enjoy while we've got it. And I want to, before we get started, also I want to tease a little bit. So Kiss got me for about Kiss hadn't got me for a while purchasing anything from Kiss online or anything like that. So I've been kind of, resisting the urge to buy. And I recently got a raise at work. So I'm like, screw it. I'm going to reward myself a little bit. So I went online the other day and Kiss ended up getting me for about $600.
And you told your wife the day after.
And I told my wife the day after.
Right?
What did you get?
Well, I'm not going to say right now. They're going to get shown in a video, but this is one of the things I got. And
from Amazon.
You can probably figure out what this is because this is just one thing.
I do. I know what it is. It's from Amazon. So you didn't do the stupid thing by buying it from Kiss Online.
So
I know
This
exactly
is Vinnie
what that
Vincent.
This is one. It's the Vinnie Vincent box set.
I will just ask one question. Have you heard it being streaming or whatever?
I've heard it streaming. Yes, I have heard it
Okay.
streaming. And here is another thing that is going to get opened at a later time. And but what I'm going to do with both of those is probably sometime this weekend, sit down, make a video, opening them up, and kind of going through and laying them out and going through the stuff and let people visually see what comes with those things that may not have them, that may not going to buy them at the level that I bought them at. So they can just kind of get a look at it and then I'm gonna try to listen to it and give a review at the same time on what I think about the material that's actually included.
Just tell your wife it ain't a crime to be good to yourself.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. This is Angelo Scanzelli said $600. This is not all of it. Altogether, the $600 was about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5 things altogether. Was 5 things that varied in price anywhere from $60 to $200 and varying in price. So, all right. So, but I'll be showing off all that stuff, not showing it off, but letting you guys see it and get a look at it and give a review on it as we go. So let's see. And I also see Skellington 78. Good to see you. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this. I want you guys we're going to talk about each matchup before we give our pick between each matchup, because we've only got 4 matchups. So we kind of got to drag our feet a little bit to get to that hour mark, I guess, because you never know, we might get off on a tangent and go over. But want to talk about each one of the matchups and what you guys think of each album in the matchup, and then talk about, and then we'll come back around and talk about which one that we picked between between each matchup. So the first matchup is, and I'll let James go because he's in the middle of the screen. The first matchup, Kiss debut versus Alive 2. That's a killer. That's a heartbreaker right there.
For me, I would have to go with Alive 2 because there's so much variation, and it's more of a party compared to the debut album, I think. I mean, even though there's so many classics and it's hard to go against that. For me, in my heart, I'd say Alive 2, just because I'm closer to that era when I first started getting into Kiss, and there's a lot more. You get a lot more bang for the buck with that one,
Mm-hmm.
and even a studio side. So it's
So with your pick being Alive 2, what was some of your favorite aspects of Alive 2?
I'd say my favorite was "We're Gonna Turn the Microphone Over To," that song.
Right. Right.
And I think "I Stole Your Love" and "Shock Me." Detroit Rock City and King of the Nighttime World. I love that combo live.
Some people claim that, like, I've been listening to a lot of different podcasts lately, and they talk about like how their favorite Kiss song overall is "I Stole Your Love."
Yeah, and I think some people even like "Rocket Ride" as their favorite song on the whole album that I've talked to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it's a heartbreaker between the two, but if you really think about it, there are no songs on Alive 2 that's on the debut because just of what they did. That's one thing interesting about the Des Moines off the soundboard that we have coming up, that's going to be
96.
coming out, is the fact that it has songs that were from the second, third set of albums, like "Take Me" and "Hooligan" and stuff like that. I don't know if "Hooligan's" on there. I think "Take Me's" on there, but there are also songs that was originally on Alive that are on there as well, that they didn't cut them in order to have a full album. And I think the way that where the fourth side, the studio side, came from was when they had all the material that they had, and when they decided to not include songs like "Rock and Roll All Night" and "Deuce" and those types of songs. When they decided not to include those songs and they come up short, they then turned around and did things like "Tomorrow and Tonight" wasn't live. It was recorded during sound check. And "Hard Luck Woman" was recorded during sound check. It wasn't live. They piped in the audience on that. And honestly, I kind of always wonder why they went that direction. And if they were going to go that direction, if they were already recording songs during sound check, why didn't they just do something like "Hooligan" and have "Take Me" on there, and then maybe record a couple other songs, Mike, during sound check, and then they would have been, because if they would have added those two songs to the list, they might have only had to do maybe one or two more sound check songs. So I don't know. I'm thankful that we had the four studio songs, because or five. Well, I'm thankful for four of them, not so much one of them. But I think we would have gotten, because people are like, "Oh, I wish we would have gotten if we hadn't had side four, we wouldn't have got Rocket Ride. Yeah, we would have got Rocket Ride. It would have just been a year later on Ace's solo album.
Yeah.
If that song didn't make it to side 2 of Alive, it was going to go on his solo album. There's
Okay,
no
do you know
doubt.
which other ones that Ace played on aside from Rocket Ride? Like there's Bob Kulick that played on.
All
I think-
American Man.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
Rocket Ride is it.
that's
I think
it.
I think Rocket Ride is the only song that the whole band played on, because a lot of people contest that that's not Peter Criss playing the drums, that it's Anton Fig. But even Anton Fig has said I've seen numerous articles where Anton Fig has said that that's not him on the All American, not All American Man, but on
Rocket Ride.
Rocket Ride. So, some people say, "Oh, that don't sound like Peter. Peter couldn't do that." During that era, Peter probably could have, because Peter was on fire coming off of Destroyer. If you listen to Rock and Roll Over, I was listening to Rock and Roll Over today because I had been listening to this podcast called not Shout It Out Loud, but Right Between the Eyes. And I'd been listening to those guys, and Ron and Rick and Ron and Nick and Nikki, I guess, Nicholas, or his name's Rob. And I've been listening to them, and the episode I listened to today, they did Rock and Roll Over review of it. And I went back and I listened to it, and then I listened to Love Gun right after that. And then if you listen to Alive 2, Peter was on fire during this time. He was on fire. So yeah, hell yeah, I think that Peter could have easily done Rocket Ride. It's not that hard. Even that whole thing at the end, I may cover Rocket Ride just to show you how easy it is. It's not that hard.
The snare thing he does.
Yeah, the thing he does at the end, it's not
Yeah.
that hard. It's just a fast roll down the toms and then just it's not that hard. So Peter could have done that. Totally. He could have. But now if he had come busted out with like some Creatures of the Night saying that's Peter Criss, and I'd be like, no way, that ain't Peter Criss.
Or King of the Mountain.
Yeah, or King of the Mountain, right? Exactly. So
Jersey Joe.
Look at Jersey Joe. Thank you, Jersey Joe. I appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. We'll highlight that. Thank you so
And
much.
Dark Light said play wish they played Rocket Ride live, which would have been cool too.
Ace played all guitars on Rocket Ride. I thought that it's possible Dark Light. I'll look that up, but it's possible that he did, because it was essentially, Ace is really not wanting to hang out with those guys during that time. And I know that I don't think Ace played on any of the other songs. Rocket Ride maybe all Ace and Peter, but I thought that Rocket Ride was the full band, kind of like, but I'm not sure. But okay, so what about so James, your pick is Alive 2. Glenn, what about you between Kiss debut and Alive 2? Which one are you going to pick and why?
Right, so what I will say is I don't remember exactly what I did pick, because I did do this one. But I remember it being a kind of in the moment, like, God, catch me on any day and it could be another answer kind of thing. If you were to put me on the spot right now, I think it's what I picked initially. I think I would go with the debut, because Alive 2 just kind of annoys me. And I know, like, for you guys, I know Alive 2 is quite sentimental, and like you'd have quite the connection. Probably like me with Sonic Boom and Monster and stuff like that. It just kind of annoys me. Like I can hear that they've messed with they've done something. They've sped it up somehow, but like kind of mechanically, like in the mix, that you can tell it's a bit fake to my ears. This is retrospectively, so it's going to have a kind of an impact. Yeah, so I'll have to go with the debut, because I think the songs are stronger. The earlier songs, and to be honest, maybe some of the stuff from Alive 2 are songs that I would prefer over the original ones. But if I was going to listen to them, I'd listen to them off Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over and Love Gun. I would never touch the Alive 2 versions. Only the side 4 is what I would go for.
Okay.
Even the Shock Me solo.
Yeah, and this is coming from a guitar player, so I know it's blasphemous, but
It's okay.
shoot me.
To each their own.
Don't shoot me.
Oh no, that's fine. It's all opinions here. It's just all opinions. Yeah. Well, I think you're going to find out, Glenn, that if you listen to some of the stuff that they've already released from Des Moines, and when the Des Moines off the soundboard comes out, you're definitely going to get that raw Alive 2 sound that is on Alive 2, and you're going to hear where they didn't fix things, and where they fixed things, being able to compare. Like, I've listened to Alive 2 so much through the years that I almost know it, by heart in my ear.
That's probably their version of the song you would know.
And so whenever what I've heard from Des Moines so far, and what I've also heard from if you want a preview of what you're going to hear on Des Moines, and just go on YouTube and find the Lost Alive 2, because even though it's not recorded from the same thing, it's kind of the same set, and it's actually before Love Gun, I think, or no, it's actually after Love Gun.
It's Tokyo, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Tokyo. But they played everything fast. They played everything faster. Like Christine 16's a whole lot faster. Detroit Rock City's a whole lot faster. They just played everything fast. God of Thunder's faster. I mean, Peter was amped up on coke, so they played everything faster. But I think they also did that just to get more songs into the set too. Most bands typically, and you know, Glenn, you being in a band too, and I know that when I was in a band, a lot of times when we recorded something, the way we recorded it, we tried to make it as close to how we were going to perform it live as possible. Because I was in a 3-piece band. So you really, when you're in a 3-piece band and you're a guitarist / singer, bass player, and a drummer, you really can't get too fancy because in a studio, because then it's very difficult to replicate live. And so, we never wanted to let people down. So, so we played the same things at the same speed. But a lot of bands, you'll find, like big bands, is they play songs faster live than they do on the album. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if they do it to pack more songs into the time or whatever. I don't know why that is, but I just noticed that they always play faster. I had a couple questions come in. Somebody asked me if I was going to try to do the Rocket Ride cover. I may try to do that. And Angelo Scanzelli asked, did I hear Let Me Go Rock and Roll off of Des Moines yet? And yes, I did. That's one of the things that made me want to do Let Me Go Rock and Roll. And so that's why I went back to the original and did it off of Alive. So between my two picks, between Alive and the debut is this was tough for me because I love the songs off of Alive. This would have only been tougher if it was Alive against Alive 2, because I like the songs off of the debut album, but I like them better on Alive. And I like the songs on Alive 2 better than most of the studio versions, although I do think the studio versions on Destroyer, and not exactly, but Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over and Love Gun, the studio versions are closer to what's on Alive 2, although they're not as energetic and a little more toned back. I think they're closer than the songs off of the first 3 albums, the R2 Alive. That's why I think people love Alive so much, is because you had such classic material on the first 3 albums, but you had the best representation of those on Alive. And a lot of people don't feel that way when it comes to Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, and Love Gun. Some people like the studio versions better than they like Alive 2. Like, there's a lot of love out there for Alive 2, but there's also a lot of, not hate, but there's a lot of people think Alive 2 is overrated. I've heard that a lot of people say that Alive 2 is overrated. And that, and that's fine. Each to each their own. But but I picked between the two of these. I had to go with Alive 2 just because, like Glenn said, Alive 2 is the first Kiss album that I bought, and not with my own money, but it's the first album that I was a Kiss fan for when it came out. I became a Kiss fan in August of '77, and Alive 2 came out in October of '77. So I'd been a Kiss fan like 2 months, and then we had this brand new, epic, awesome album. So I picked the Alive 2.
So by that logic, you had what, like 7 albums to catch up on before it came out?
Yeah, and what's funny is I didn't hear the first 3. I think I said this in a video before. I didn't hear the first 3 albums in Alive for a very long time, maybe 2 years. Because when I heard I'd had Destroyer, and then when Alive 2 came out, I was like, where's these other songs come from? And so I found out, I went and looked and found out that I saw Kiss had these other albums, but I was looking for songs I recognized. And I'm like, oh, there's Shock Me, so I want Love Gun. Oh, there's, Making Love and I Want You, and I want Rock and Roll Over. And so I bought those, and then I kind of digested those for a little bit. And then I remember my friend's uncle had a copy of Alive, and I borrowed it and I listened to it. And I remember being so creeped out. We're kind of creeping into the Alive section, but I remember being so creeped out by the cover of Alive. And believe it or not, I wasn't creeped out by Gene covered in blood on Alive 2, but Gene just had this Alive 2 cover, just had this look to it. Gene just had this look to it. He almost looked like he was a demon or a vampire or something like that, just on the look he had on the cover of that album. And then I listened to it and I'm like, well, where did all these songs come from? And that's when I discovered the first 3 albums. So, but getting to the winner of the first matchup between Kiss Debut and Alive 2, this was pretty definitive. The loser had 17 points. The winner had 26. The loser is Kiss Debut, and the winner is Kiss Alive 2. So Kiss Alive 2 will advance and go up either against our next matchup, the winner of our next matchup, Destroyer versus Alive. So, Glenn, I'll let you start.
Okay, again, I don't remember what I picked, but I'll just go off what I'm feeling right now. Destroyer and Alive were the first 2 albums that they were kind of my gateway into Kiss. So I had an old, what are you opening, Brian? Oh, it's just a water. Okay.
Just water.
I thought it was
just
something
water.
interesting. Okay. Yeah, well, it was my kind of gateway. Like I had an old Nokia, one of those button phones at the time. And it's kind of showing you where I came from. Like it was the 2000s, I was a kid, whatever. And my uncle had downloaded online. He got like 2 albums. He said, like you might like this little band, or not this little band, but you might like this band, Kiss. They have a couple of okay songs. So he put on Alive and he put Destroyer onto my phone. So they were quite, impactful albums to start the whole kind of Kiss craze with, before my introduction then really into Sonic Boom and then going back. But if you were to put me on the spot right now, I would have to go with Alive, because it's just an album that you can put on top to bottom. And I could say the same about Destroyer. Like I could put Destroyer on top to bottom, enjoy it thoroughly, but it's kind of like a guitar player's perspective. If I was to pick up my guitar and just play along with something, probably like you a bit, Brand, with drums as well. Mm-hmm. Like if you're going to play along with something, it's going to be Alive. Like that's you know what I mean? And you almost know like the raps are coming up, and then you know what it's going to go into, the whole rock bottom, all of that, So yeah, it's Alive for me. The only bitch is getting up and flipping it several times.
Right. All right. So James, what about you? Alive or Destroyer?
Alive all the way. And when you think of a song that, when you talk about live songs that are better than the studio, one that comes to mind is Let Me Go Rock and Roll is way better to me live than the studio version. It's so alive. you know.
Mhm.
And even though I'm crazy about Destroyer, and I was for years, just Alive is a total classic live album, and it's the experience that beats out the classic songs from Destroyer to me.
Yeah, it's another one of those situations where we have a live album going up against a classic. You know, a lot of people, and I think even Kiss themselves consider that Destroyer is their best album because to this day, look at all the songs they play off of it to this day. And look at all the songs they played off of it throughout the years. I mean, it's one of the albums that in its entirety almost they have played songs off of.
I would have
I've
liked to have
seen
heard Sweet Pain live, though. That would have been nice.
I would be confident in saying that I've seen probably the least amount of Kiss shows out of the three of us right now. So I've seen 3 Kiss shows in my lifetime. And I'm almost certain that I've seen, them play every single song, probably
Which
except.
tours?
So I saw the Sonic Boom Over Europe tour was the first in Dublin, in Ireland. The second was the Kiss World Tour. I went to Madrid to see that. And then just recently I saw them in Germany. I saw them in Hamburg. So I've seen them play Detroit Rock City. I'm probably drawing a blank now, but most recently I saw them do Beth and Do You Love Me. They played Flaming Youth on the Kiss World Tour. So yeah, like much to your credit, Brand, they do play a lot of stuff on that album.
Yeah.
And rightly so.
And then you have albums like Rock and Roll Over that they barely touch. I mean,
Yeah.
you have albums that, they barely touch songs off of. Dress to Kill, they barely touch songs off of it. Just historically, they've just barely touched songs off of it. So, you know, uh, but me, when it comes to these two, uh, I have a huge soft spot for Destroyer. Everybody knows me by now knows that Destroyer was my first Kiss album, and it's been a favorite for a long time. I love every song on Destroyer, some more than others, but I like songs that people don't. I love Sweet Pain. I love Great Expectations. I love Flaming Youth. I think I love those songs. A lot of people they don't care for those songs, but but on top of that, there are songs on that album I prefer more on Alive too. Um, but now when it comes to Alive is a classic. Somebody said something in the chat that Alive is the Bible, and Alive is almost. I want to argue that people say that Alive 2 is when Kiss was at their best. I don't think Alive 2 was when Kiss was at their best. It may have been some of the best material that they produced in about a year and a half time. I mean, you got to think about it. What Kiss was doing during this time was phenomenal. It's unheard of by today's standards. They were putting out full albums every 6 months. They put out their first album 6 months later. They put out Higher Than Hell. 6 months later, they put out Dressed to Kill. 6 months later, they put out Alive. A year later, they put out Destroyer. 6 months later, they put out Rock and Roll Over. 6 months later, they put out Love Gun. 6 months later, they put out Alive 2. I mean, think about that. From 74 to 77, the number of albums that they put out. It's crazy to think of how
There
many.
were more than what they put out in my lifetime as a Kiss fan.
Yeah, just think about
Yeah,
that.
you had a long wait in between albums.
Yeah. So, but I think Kiss during the Alive 2 era, even though the cracks was already there, and the family was splitting apart, and a lot of the angst was already there, I still think that musically and the machine of Kiss was the best that it was before they imploded. And then had to start all over, and not start all over again, but start uh, and at least partially start all over. But my pick between these two is Alive, for sure. So and the see what the panel picked. This was the biggest, and I kind of figured this was going to be the way it was going to go. But this was the biggest win. The loser only had 8 points. The winner had 35 points. So Destroyer with 8 and Alive with 35. So that will put Alive and Alive 2 against each other in the next round.
That's a good matchup.
And that makes me wonder which of those two have better sound production.
Honestly, I'm not a fan of the sound production on either one of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
You put either one of those albums on a modern stereo, and that both of them, they just fall flat. They fall flat. I mean,
And tinny.
Yeah. The production is great as far as like the actual recording and
Mixing.
and the mixing. It's just, I don't know. It's just, they don't have a whole lot of bottom end to them.
Yeah.
And you can't say, well, that's how albums was during the 70s. No, you put on some albums from that mid 70s era and live albums or studio albums or whatever, and they have a good bottom end sound to them that just a lot of Kiss albums don't have. Kiss albums, to me, the one that sounded the best sonically early on was probably Dress to Kill.
And Creatures.
And then you don't really have a good sonically sounding album, even though it was overproduced. Good sonically sounding album is probably you get to Dynasty or Dynasty, as the Australians say it.
I was going to argue Love Gun.
Dress to Kill, excellent.
Dress to Kill has a good sound, but there's some mixing issues with Dress to Kill. And their Dress to Kill sounds good. I mean, not Dress to Kill, but Rock and Roll Over has a good sound being produced by Eddie Kramer. Love Gun has a good sound being produced by Eddie Kramer, but there are some mixing issues with both of them. They both got Mr. Speed has a real bad mixing flub in it. If you ever listen to it and listen really good, listen to Mr. Speed coming out of the solo where it's kind of hanging, and Paul does that whole ow, and it does that, it does that for a little bit, and then it kicks back into where Paul goes, I don't care. You'll hear this. You'll hear this rhythm guitar just freaking come out of nowhere. It's like, it's like somebody forgot to push the knob up on the rhythm guitar.
I know what you mean. It's on. Peter does a little kind of thing.
Yeah, that I don't care. And you hear like the first you get that they play in that rhythm. They're going whenever they do that first it's like down here, and then you hear it slow. Whenever they hit that long note, you hear the audio slope up. It's like it's like it goes from here to here by the end of that note. And my son, I didn't even mention that to my son one day. And my son, we were talking. It was when we were reviewing all these albums. He's like, I love Mr. Speed, but have you ever noticed that really bad mixing in it? And I'm like, yes, I've noticed it. I've noticed it. And that's how my son talks too. If y'all have seen my videos with Steven, that's how my son talks. I always imitate my son whenever I say what he's saying, anything he's saying. He's like, why whenever you say what I say, you always start talking like me? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why that is. All right. So that's going to be a good matchup. So let's move on to, I thought these next two matchups were really good. Dress to Kill versus Rock and Roll Over. James, you go first.
Dress to Kill or Rock and Roll Over? No. Yeah, I think I remember who I voted for, but I went back and listened to Dress to Kill a couple days ago, and I'm thinking I have a new appreciation, especially like I haven't heard it in a few years. I haven't listened to it in a few years, and the funny thing about that is I was listening to Room Service, and there's a couple of lines where I didn't even know what the lyrics were for years, since I was a teenager. and that was my plane's delayed, and I'm afraid they're gonna keep me waiting here till 9. I didn't know what he said that
Mhm.
until a couple days ago. So, do you ever get those times where you discover lyrics that you
All the
haven't known
time.
for years?
All the time. All the time. There'll
So
be
I couldn't
times.
believe that.
There'll be
And what's it?
times that I will. I've gotten actually on a lot of early Kiss albums because they didn't put lyric sheets and stuff back in
Yeah.
the day.
Hmm.
And I've gotten on to where I will listen to it online, and while I'm listening to it, I'll pull up the lyrics. And man, there's so many Kiss lyrics that I have been singing wrong for
Yeah.
years. For
And
years.
then a stewardess in a tight blue dress. I didn't even that whole section. I didn't know. I didn't even know then a stewardess in a tight. I knew tight blue dress, but I didn't know then a stewardess. The way he sung it.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
a
The way
stewardess.
he says it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I voted for Rock and Roll Over just because I'm more familiar with it.
Mm-hmm. All right. What about you, Glenn?
I have to go with Dress to Kill.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's the obvious, and I say the obvious choice, but no, I can't say that. But I love Rock and Roll Over. Like I really love Rock and Roll Over. Way above Destroyer, Love Gun. You know, so many albums. Dynasty or Dynasty, as some people
Mm-hmm.
call it. But no, absolutely. Dress to Kill. It's another one of those alive kind of albums for me where you can put it on at the start, pick up a guitar, pick up a set of drums, bass, whatever it is, and just play it top to bottom. And you almost they have those big spaces between the songs, but you're waiting for the next one to come on, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I especially love it. Like I actually did it on my own channel. I did like a kind of a live stream. Let's play a Kiss album, you know, live. So I actually got my Les Paul and I played along to the album. It's on my channel. So
Okay.
if that's saying anything, then my pick is Dress to Kill.
Okay.
So did you switch to the acoustic when you played Rock Bottom?
No, I just how would you put it? I just what's the word? I just
Winged it. Yeah.
I didn't wing it. I kind of accustomated to it. Like
Oh.
I changed the pickup and I knew in advance that if I was gonna, this is very geeky, but I knew like if I was gonna go to the neck pickup, I would have it at a certain setting because I knew I would only use it on rock bottom. So I would just flip the switch,
Mm-hmm.
play the intro, and then I
Mhm.
go back to the bridge pickup for the kick in.
And what a difference from sonically speaking between Dress to Kill and Hotter Than Hell. It's
Right.
like they must have got a whole different team or equipment
Oh,
or
they did,
something different.
Well,
And rightly so.
that's the point that I was going to bring up is I could almost have an episode. We're not, but I could almost have an episode of talking about the marvels, and the miracles that Dress to Kill and Rock and Roll Over really are. Because think about this, Dress to Kill. It's amazing that Dress to Kill even is as good as it is. If you looked at all logic, Dress to Kill should be worse than than the original debut album and Hotter Than Hell because
It's so rushed.
they were taken off of the Hotter Than Hell tour to record it. They did not have songs. They were writing songs as they were recording it. They did not have the money for a producer. So they were basically, um, God, his name's leaving my head right now. The guy that owned Casablanca,
Bogart.
Bogart. I was thinking Bill Coyne, but that was the manager. Bogart was credited as the producer, but Gene and Paula both said that he basically just sat in the control room and he would say, like, that's a good take. And they'd be like, no, we're going to do it again. So it was almost like it was the first album that Gene and Paul produced. And this was before they had time with Ezrin. So before they really got an idea of what a real producer looked like. I mean, they had an idea of what a real producer looked like with Eddie when Eddie did their demos for the debut album. But it's amazing that that Dress to Kill is as good as it is. It's amazing that it sounds as good as it does, and the band was tight. You could tell that they were really starting to come together. The musicianship between the first two albums and the tightness that they have, and
especially Peter.
Yeah, just the tightness and the musicianship and the quality of the musicianship and the synchronization that they have. And as fast as they recorded, I think they recorded Dress to Kill in like 2 weeks, like something like that. I mean, it was done in a week and a half or 2 weeks. So they did it in a crazy amount of time. And yeah, the songs are, I mean, Rock and Roll All Night don't even have a solo. There are long songs. They did play the really long intro to Rock Bottom, and they've got the long spacing in between the songs, and the grooves on the album are really far apart because the album doesn't even clock in. I think it does it barely clock in at 30 minutes. Yeah, it's one of the shortest Kiss albums there is, but it's so good. It don't get a lot of love. And now Rock and Roll Over, on the other hand, is one of those albums that it's amazing that it is as good as it is because they just came off of recording Destroyer, went out on tour, and then they got sucked back into the studio because the fans wasn't reacting to the album the way that the record company wanted them to. And so they were basically Rock and Roll Over was a Damage Control album. So it was just, hey, get back in the studio and do a rock and roll album that is not like Destroyer. Get back to your roots. Get back to rock. And it's almost like they took what they knew from Ezrin and then mixed in elements of the first three albums, took a little bit of the first three albums and put it in a blender and mixed it all together, and they came out with Rock and Roll Over. And one of the biggest factors that they got was Eddie Kramer. I'm one of those people who firmly believe that Eddie Kramer should have been Kiss's George Martin. You know, George Martin produced the Beatles, every Beatles album. He was almost like that extra member of the band. I think Eddie Kramer should have been with Kiss from the beginning. He was with them for the demos. And then for whatever reason, Eddie said that, you know, that they went another direction, that he wasn't sure why they did, why the powers that be did, but they went in another direction. But I think that you know, that he should have been all the way there with them all the way, because who knows what those first albums would have sounded like. But to me, between these two albums, this is hard to pick because I love both of these albums. But this down to me comes down to the songs. To me, Rock and Roll Over has the stronger songs, and it has just as equally good production, but it has a little bit more rawer production. Whereas Dress to Kill is a little sleek, and but it's got its own sound too. So, but with me, it comes down to the songs. Plus, it's got "Making Love" on it. "Making Love" is in like my top 5 Kiss songs.
That's one of my top Kiss songs to crank.
Yeah. I mean, it kicks butt. I don't care if you're doing it on a Live 2 or if you're doing it on Rock and Roll Over. "Making Love" is an amazing song. So, but they're both really good songs, but really good albums. But I went with Rock and Roll Over. So let's see what the panel picked. The loser had 10 points. The winner had 33 points. So the loser, Dress to Kill. The winner, Rock and Roll Over, with 33 points. So Rock and Roll Over will go on to...
That's surprising.
Yep. Rock and Roll Over will go on to face Love Gun or Harder Than Hell. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. I usually don't tell you the scores ahead of time, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. This was the sleeper nail biter. I didn't think this matchup was going to be the nail biter.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the nail biter. There are only 3 points difference. between the winner and the loser of this, between Love Gun and Harder Than Hell. There was only a 3-point difference. It was extremely close. So, see, we did Glenn, or we did James last time. Glenn, you start with you. Which one is your pick between? What do you think about Love Gun and Harder Than Hell, and which one's your pick?
I have to go with Love Gun. I know it's gotten a bit of flack in the past. People don't like the "Then She Kissed Me" cover, or some people mightn't like the congas on Almost Human, or they mightn't be congas, but there's something rhythmic happening there that's, it's not necessarily a drum kit that we would know, at least.
Right.
Yeah, I love Gun. I'm sorry, it was Love Gun versus
Hotter Than Hell.
Hotter Than Hell. Like, there's a lot of, it's kind of like what you said. There's a lot of great songs on Hotter Than Hell, All the Way, Mainline, but the production isn't there. Coming Home is one that it doesn't really hit until, at least for me, until I hear it on Unplugged, and then you kind of go, oh, that's how it's meant to sound.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it kind of should have been. This is our new song called Coming Home, not on Hotter Than Hell, where you have a little tinny production. I love both albums, but the production does kind of ruin it for me. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at my framed Hotter Than Hell news article. So I'm being biased in a sense, but no, Love Gun all the way, because I can play that album and it doesn't wear on me. I have no burnout factor with it. So Love Gun all the way.
Love Gun. And just side A alone, I think, wins it. Like, for me, Shock Me is ranks it high for me, just having that value of having Shock Me on there. And Christine 16, another great one that is not allowed to be written in today's standards.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Why is that?
And they still sing it live.
Well, I mean, so obviously I'm the youngest here, but they always joke about that now. Like, oh, you can't say that today. Could you even say that back then? And what I mean is, legally, could you have said that back then? The case is still no.
I think that's just, it was very, I mean, that's always been a thing about rock, is singing about things that's forbidden. Winger had "She's Only 17."
Yeah.
There's been so many songs about girls being underage, and that's the taboo. And Gene's always sung weird stuff like that. Going blind, I'm 93, you're 16.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and even in room service.
Yeah.
Sweet 16 looking up at me.
Sweet 16 looking up at me saying, I wish he would. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
See your dad getting mad.
See your dad getting mad all the time. He knows that I need a room service.
So yeah, about Hotter Than Hell, like Let Me Go Rock and Roll. Like, I mean, like I said before, I much prefer the live version. And like Glenn mentioned, the production and everything. So I'm for sure Love Gun all the way. Even though I love Parasite and Got to Choose.
It's ironic you say that, though. It's Love Gun all the way.
Yeah.
All the way.
from Hotter Than
All
Hell.
the way.
Yeah.
It's Love Gun all the way. Love Gun or Hotter Than Hell. I tell you what, man, Hotter Than Hell has some really good material on it. Going Blind and Coming Home, and yeah, it's got so much good material to it. There's some people that's big fans of the production, the muddled production, that some people say makes it sound very heavy metal, and I just don't hear that. I've never heard that. I hear somebody.
I know Ralph likes it.
I hear somebody really messing up a mix that should have not been producing that album. They tried to go heavier than the first album, and they they got more muddled than the first album. But the material is great. Probably stronger than most of the material that's on Love Gun, even though Love Gun is great. It's got one of my favorite songs, Shot Me's on there. Love Gun, I'm not the biggest fan of the song Love Gun. It's definitely played out for me a whole lot. I'm not a big fan of Then She Kissed Me, but almost every other song on, Hooligan, I love. I mean, there's so much songs on Love Gun that I do love. But I Stole Your Love
And
on there.
Love Gun, I've had quite enough of Paul saying, I'm going to come out and see you, and
Yeah.
do the whole Love Gun
1,
thing.
2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Had enough of that one.
Yeah. So this was a easier pick for me, basically because that I'm more of a, I guess just due to the era that I came into Kiss, I'm more of a second 3 studio albums more than I am a first 3 studio albums. Even though if I had sat, and that's a shameless plug for what I'm going to be doing, I am going to be going back. I put a thing up on my social media, and I am going to be going back and re-reviewing all the Kiss albums. I'm going to go back. Some of you have never been with me to review them. They're on my channel. You can go back and watch them. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to re-review them, and I'm going to have guests reviewing them with me, because I think the first few was just me alone, and then I think my son Steven came in around Alive, and he went with me all the way up through Creatures or so,
And even Elder.
We did the Elder together. He came back to do Carnival. He got married and had a kid, so during that time he didn't have a whole lot of free time. But so this time when I go through, I'm going to have guests come in. I've already been talking to some people, and I'm going to talk to some more of you who's been in videos before with me. And I'm going to do it differently. We're not going to go in chronological order. I'm going to pull up my list after I went through them all the first time. I compiled a list of my most favorite to my least favorite. And we're going to start with my least favorite. And I'm going to go through it. I'm going to score it a little bit differently, do it a little bit differently. And then at the end, I'm going to decide, is this album still in this spot, least favorite spot, or 15th spot or 10th spot or whatever, or am I going to move it to another spot? And I'm going to go ahead and move it to that spot. So as I get in more, of course, I'm going to have to figure out where I'm going to put them. But the first album, I'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. The first album that I scored as my least favorite album when I went through it the first time is Crazy Nights. So Crazy Nights will be the first album that I re-review coming up. Probably start working on that series in September. So those videos should start coming out maybe like every other week in September.
That has maybe one of the greatest Kiss songs of all time, Bang Bang You.
Bang Bang You. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Emily had a great question on who chooses producers. So how would they have chosen the producer?
Early on, I don't know if Kiss had a choice in that. Early on, I think it would have been the record company and the management that would have made that choice. But later on, I'd say once Kiss got past, say, Alive, they probably had a say-so in it. But early on, I think maybe it would have been probably Bill Aucoin and would have probably picked it, or somebody at Casablanca, some of the A&R people. Maybe not necessarily Neil Bogart, but somebody in the organization would have picked it probably.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I'll be back in 1 minute, okay?
Okay, all right.
Okay, thanks.
So that basically leaves Love Gun and Higher Than Hell up against each other. So I picked Love Gun, and I believe you guys both picked Love Gun, didn't you? Didn't Glenn pick Love Gun?
Yes.
And so we all picked Love Gun. The loser with 20 points was actually Love Gun. Believe it or not, Hotter Than Hell won with 23 points. I actually went back and counted after I saw that because I was like, "Is that right? Is that right?" But yeah, it's right. Hotter Than Hell
How
won
about that?
with 23 points. So that brings us to the final four, and this will be this. And there's Cecil's got the answer right there, probably. Kerner and Weiss produced for Bogart on the Buddha Karma Sultra Buddha Karma Sultra records. So that's probably Bogart probably called them in. And like I said, I don't know why they didn't go with Eddie Kramer. It probably was money wise, but in my opinion, they should have went with Eddie. So that brings us to that's going to be the final four, and it'll bring us to the final four and the final that'll take us to the two that'll go up against each other.
So Glenn missed the winner.
Oh, the winner, Glenn, believe it or not, the winner of between Love Gun and Hotter Than Hell was Hotter Than Hell by 3 points.
Wow. Well, I can see it though. I can see why.
I mean,
you might have a few comments that you want to.
yeah, I'm gonna boot this bot.
Yeah. How did he find? Yeah, that was nicely.
Oh, I
that was
blocked
quick,
Les Wadley. Oh, didn't mean to block Les Wadley. Les, I'm sorry. I had to unblock you. I'm sorry. I was trying to block the bot. Les, come back. I don't know how to unblock him.
Can he still hear this or no?
He might be able to hear it, but Les, I blocked you on accident. I'm sorry.
If you have him on Instagram, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
The power of the internet.
Snake hips. Be right back. I'm heading over to Love Chat.
Have you ever done
I hate bots.
Have you ever done a Hotter Than Hell versus Love Gun, track versus track?
I think so. I would have to look back on my stuff, but I think so. I think I
wonder who
have.
won that one. Would be
I'd have
curious
to
to
look.
see who won that.
I'd have to look and see. But so that means that I'll be putting it up tomorrow. It's going to be Alive versus Live 2, and then Rock and Roll Over versus Hotter Than Hell, and that'll be the next video. It'll probably be not this coming Wednesday, not a week from today, but 2 weeks from today. And I'll figure out something else to do for Wednesday night chat next week. Now I will let you guys know that there'll be some weeks coming in August and September that I either won't be able to do the Wednesday night chat, or I'll have to do it on another night other than Wednesday. It'll have to be either done maybe on a Tuesday or done on a Friday, but it won't be able to be done on a Wednesday or a Thursday because I'll have to be traveling for work. And I've got some traveling coming up I have to do. So, but if I can do it for all, because I know we like doing this on Wednesday nights, if I can make it work on Wednesday night, I'll do it on Wednesday night. But if not, I'll have to do it another time or just skip that week. So, but yeah, that's all I've got. Guys, I appreciate you guys hanging out. Like I said, guys, that's going to leave Alive against Alive 2 and Rock and Roll Over against Hotter Than Hell coming up. And then once we finish this, we're going to do the non-makeup albums against each other. And that'll be very and then and a couple makeup albums because we're going to count Monster and Sonic Boom in there. Sonic Boom! We're going to count them in there as well. So, I mean, they might win. I mean, Sonic Boom might get put up against Crazy Nights.
If Sonic Boom didn't have Delilah, then I don't see it getting anywhere.
I actually like Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom is my favorite. We've had that debate when it comes to Sonic Boom and Monster. Sonic Boom is my favorite between Monster and Sonic Boom. I can get behind more of the tracks on Sonic Boom than I can on Monster.
Yeah.
Monster has a great sound. It just sounded to me like they were just starting to run out of ideas.
It's a bit muddy, like in the sound and in the songwriting.
Yeah.
And
I love it, but yeah.
Yeah, and Eric kind of cringy with some of his songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like at the time, it was a bit kind of hard to get into All for the Love, but it's kind of grown on me now. I kind of see it more as a Paul song, to be honest. A
Yeah.
bit kind of like a 70s. You could hear it being like it, as blasphemous as it may sound, but I could hear it being a kind of Peter 70s song
Mhm.
that Paul wrote. You can hear Paul all over it. Basically.
Yeah, it almost sounds like they're trying to and they really were trying to do it. What with both of those albums, with Sonic Boom and with Monster, they were trying to recapture some of that rock and roll over Love Gun era feel. Because I really honestly feel that is when they believed that they were their best. Is the rock and roll, the Destroyer, rock and roll over, and Love Gun era. That year and a half, 2 years. I feel like that because when they made Monster, what they didn't go back and say, well, we're going to go try to sound like the first album, or we're going to make an album that sounds like Higher Than Hell. They
Or we're going to
specifically
sound
said,
new.
yeah, they specifically said we're going to try to capture that the essence of something like. And when All for the Love of Rock and Roll starts up, it's almost like for a split second, it sounds a little bit like the beginning of Mr. Speed.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, oh, and you catch those little nuances of the songs that they're trying to mimic. You catch a little bit of the nuances in those songs.
Kind of like Secretly Cruel as well from Asylum.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same thing. That yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to get into the non-makeup albums, up against each other. That's going to be real cool. And I'm really looking forward to going back through and re-reviewing albums too. That's going to be real cool.
You better take it easy with Sonic Boom.
I like Sonic Boom. I said I like Sonic Boom. There's just, I just wish it was a non-makeup album. I've said that. I have to listen to Sonic. Yeah. When I listen to Sonic Boom, I have to listen to Sonic Boom with my ears. I cannot listen to Sonic Boom with my eyes.
When you say you wish it was a non-makeup album, do you wish it was a non-makeup album, or do you wish that Tommy and Eric had their own personas?
I wish that they didn't have the makeup on.
Yeah,
I'm that person that's in that camp that when the reunion tour was over, or when the farewell tour was over, that they took the makeup off and they went back to being just like they were in the 80s.
Because when I see them, I see them on stage and I think, stop trying to be Ace, stop trying to be Peter. Just why don't you just be your own self at this point?
When was the last time you guys saw them? Just out of interest.
I've not seen them personally on the End of the Road tour at all. Mm-hmm. I've seen videos and watched them online and stuff. Yeah, I've seen
Reunion tour.
Dubai.
Reunion tour for me.
I watched Dubai, but I've not seen them personally just because I don't want to. I'm gonna sound horrible but I don't want to support that era of the band. That sounds horrible, but
you have your own opinion.
Horrible. That sounds horrible, but I mean, I'm one of those crotchety old school people. But I mean, I don't hate them for what they're doing. I mean, they're just earning a paycheck. I mean, hell, if my phone was to ring right now, and Paul Stanley was to call up and be like, Brant, we need you to play. Eric can't play no more. We need you to play. We know you know all the songs, and we know that you can play them. We need you to play, but you're going to have to shave your beard, put on a wig, and wear the Catman makeup. I'd be like, it'll be my honor, sir. Because it would be an honor to me because I love Peter, and in a way, I would be paying homage. Now, everybody in the world would hate me because...
No. With that said, though, I still love certain songs like Say Yeah. I love Delilah. I love Long Way Down. And if you listen closely on Long Way Down, the guitar sounds similar to Get All You Can Take.
Mm-hmm.
If you...
I have to listen back to that.
Yeah, on Animalize.
Yeah.
So just the part where they're wearing the makeup of the original band members bothers me, but I'm still open to appreciating their music.
See, I had a chat with Ralph from, you guys probably know Almost Human.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he
Um,
hates the organ sound on Flamin' Youth. That's what he always points out.
He hates a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
No, but and rightly so. Like, everybody has their own right to opinions.
Yeah.
You don't sound bad or whatever.
Right.
But what I said to him was, I think if I had have grown up like, in your timeline, or even just in an earlier period. I'm 25, so I think like if I had have grown up, earlier or whatever, I would be in the same mind frame as you guys. It just so happens that I discovered Kiss in 2007, so it's kind of
Yeah.
like I have no choice but for this to be my
Yeah.
Kiss.
you
Like
and
it
Emily,
is. Yeah,
you and
you know
Emily
what I
are
mean.
the youngsters.
But
And
what I
and
said to him, but I just want to finish by saying what I specifically said to him was, and this might sound a bit crazy to you guys, but I feel that if there was a Kiss 2.0, and if two new members stepped in and literally wore Tommy Thayer's costume and Eric Singer's costume, I think I would feel offended. As in, you're trying to replicate my guy
Mhm.
from the band, So I
Mhm.
can see your point, but kind of in my own way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And see, and I think I'm not arguing your what you feel or what you think, because what you feel and what you think is your, is you. But it, but and you there is that whole sense that um your kiss is when you come in. Your kiss is when you come in. Like, my kiss to me is 70s Kiss, the original Kiss. But I embraced, like, when Eric came in, I embraced Eric. Eric got new makeup. That Band-Aid, that wound was still very fresh. They were very smart. They had already alienated a lot of fans up to that point. They were very smart that when Peter left, that they didn't slap the Catman makeup on him. When Ace left, they created the Ankh Warrior makeup for Vinny, and even Gene and Paul themselves said, we're not going to put that makeup on the other people, because that wouldn't be right, because that's the four original characters that was created by us. Now they've rewritten history, of course, because that's what's better for their pocketbooks. And so now, where a lot of people feel like, but I embraced Eric, I embraced Vinny, I embraced Mark St. John after they took the makeup off. I embraced Bruce, Eric Singer. I love Eric Singer as a drummer. I think he's a great and he's probably a great person. Tommy Thayer's probably a great person. He's probably a super guy. But like I said, and I don't. A lot of people, they get mad at Tommy and they get mad at Eric. Who I get mad at is, I get mad at the guys that I've loved since I was 8 years old. I get mad at Gene and Paul, because I feel like Gene and Paul will do anything to make a buck. And if it is put two guys in makeup and costume that they said they would never put anybody else in, to do that, to continue to keep drawing these big paychecks, because they know that the makeup and the costumes and the personas of Kiss, that original, that's what people want to see. That's what makes Kiss different than everybody else. When Kiss took off the makeup in the 80s, they were just like every other hair band out there. They were just like everybody else. But when they put the makeup on, there goes back to being, there is only one Kiss, because there is nobody else other than the tribute bands that sometimes are, in some cases, are better than Kiss now. But there is only one Kiss with the makeup on. Take the makeup off, there's hundreds of bands that look just like them. So I think it's smart business for them to keep the makeup on. I mean, like I said, from a business standpoint, if I was their accountant, I'd be like, and they took their makeup off, I'd be like, dudes, y'all are tanking. You need to put the makeup back on, because the makeup is what sells, and they know it. The makeup and the show and the costumes and the theatrics, that's what sells. And so that's why, like I said, whenever I listen to Sonic Boom and when I listen to Monster, I don't listen with my eyes. I don't try to look at the album cover. I just try to listen with my ears and sonically and songwriting wise, Sonic Boom is better than Monster in my opinion. But I like all eras of bands. But what you said earlier, you said, well, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, Glenn. I'm just saying, I'm just giving you another example that you're probably the norm, but there are exceptions that you say, well, and I even say, well, I came in the 70s, so 70s Kiss is my Kiss. And then I have my friends like Rick from It's All For You Demon, and Rob from over at not Shout Out Loudcast, at Right Between the Eyes. I'll get that podcast name one of these days. Right Between the Eyes. They came in the 80s. I was one of those fans that stepped out during the 80s. I kind of walked away from Kiss after Asylum. Crazy Nights, I didn't even own it for the longest time. I still don't own Hot in the Shade. Physically, I don't own it. And I actually have started enjoying that album. But I kind of stepped away, and I didn't come back for around the Kiss until Revenge and Carnival of Souls, and then the Reunion, and then the Farewell. And then after the Farewell was over, and they took a break, and then they decided to come back and keep the makeup on, and that's when I was like, that's not my jam either. So I kind of have two favorite eras of Kiss: my original era and the kind of the tail end of the Hot in the Shade, Revenge, Carnival of Souls era. I think that group, Eric Singer, Bruce Kulick, Paul and Gene, I think is badass. They're right there with the original group for me. But now my son Steven, who's just a couple years older than you, he wasn't a real Kiss fan until he would listen to Kiss in the car with me when we were riding around doing stuff. And I turned him on to Alive, and he liked Alive. And so we started listening to Alive. And then I said, well, here, check out this other stuff. And to him, it really wasn't about the makeup. He didn't care. He could kind of care less whether they wore makeup. He was just about the music. And because Kiss wasn't really a band to him. He wasn't a band that he was ever really into. And then I started playing all this different kinds of music for him through all these different kind of eras. And then we started reviewing the albums, and he found that he liked the era of Kiss, basically from the Elder back to the original, and that he really didn't care for the 80s stuff. He liked Revenge. He liked Carnival of Souls. And then he really didn't care for anything after that. So if I ask him, I'm like, what's your favorite? I've asked him before, I've said, so, if you consider yourself a Kiss fan now, he's like, yeah, I like Kiss. I'm like, what's your favorite era? He's like, the originals, the original four guys. That's my favorite era. Yeah. So, and that happened 20 years before he was born. So, it's really all about, it can be what you end up liking can be a number of things. That was your favorite era because you actually lived through it, So, and then you get somebody that didn't live through it. It just comes about their favorite era is going to become which music they like better. Do they like the 70s stuff, the 80s stuff, the 90s and on stuff? What do they like better? So,
I started in the 70s, but then my favorite became the early 80s. So right. Elder, Creatures, Lick It Up.
Right. Well, we've Kiss talked much longer, and I knew that we would. We've only gone 20 minutes over those, but I appreciate you guys. Glenn, you need to go to bed. I'm sending you to bed, young man. Go to bed.
I'm sure you've noticed my multiple yawns.
Yeah. Glenn, thanks for coming on and staying on, and James, thanks for coming and hanging out with me. It's good to see you again. We'll get together again soon, and we'll do something else. Maybe do some of these re-reviews. We'll figure something out.
Fellow white Challenger driver.
Yeah. Fellow Challenger driver. Yeah.
And both white.
Both white. Yep. You need to check out my are you on Instagram, James?
Yeah, I made that Instagram that's based off of the TikTok vocal slice.
Okay. I'll look you up on there. I'll look you up on using my Instagram page for the white card. That she calls it white knuckling.
White knuckler?
White knuckling. Like knuckling. Mm-hmm. Yeah, without the G, white knuckling.
White knuckling. Okay.
Yeah. But I'll look you up on there for vocal slice. You still do vocal slice? Did you step away from it?
Stepped away. Just just don't make any money off of it, and it's too time consuming.
Yeah, I understand that totally.
What's the warm milk reference from Michael Greer?
Where? Warm milk for Glenn. Oh, warm milk. Warm milk. Well, a lot of times if we can't get babies to sleep, we'll give them warm milk, and it helps them go to sleep faster.
Oh, okay. Is it kind of that kind of what do they call it? It's a placebo.
Yeah,
And,
kind of
and
like
what are you
I
drinking there? What are you drinking there,
A
Glenn?
Polish beer at a
Oh.
time where I should not be drinking it. It's like 2:30 over here. So
Polish beer, okay.
All right.
what time is it for you guys?
9:23 p.m.
It's 9:23 p.m.
And you're
Eastern.
both in similar.
Eastern
Alright.
Standard Time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in Canada, but he's straight north of me.
Okay. Right. So yeah, I need to get.
Hey,
to sleep. I'm in band practice tomorrow, like very soon.
Oh, maybe you should have a few more drinks.
I don't
Hey,
think
Glenn.
so.
Hey, Glenn, me and my wife for our 20 for our not this anniversary, but in October for our next anniversary in 2023, we're looking at coming to Ireland for a week.
That would be fucking cool. Yeah, do it.
We're probably gonna stay in Dublin, and then we're probably gonna drive down to Cork because that's where her family's originally from.
Okay.
Yeah, she's a redhead. She's from Cork, Ireland. So.
Well, if you'd like to get together and get a beer, I'd be.
Oh, definitely, for sure. Yeah. Probably be talking to you about where some good places to stay where we won't get murdered. Something like
Yeah,
that.
well, October, like as funny as it sounds, October is my birthday, so I'd actually love that.
Okay. Awesome.
And you can wear your Tommy makeup.
I'll wear my Tommy makeup. Yeah.
Yeah, I had somebody ask me to put some Peter makeup on to do my to do a drum cover. I said maybe in October. Maybe in October I'll dress up. I'll put some Peter makeup on and put on my wig and play hooligan or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or baby driver.
Or
hooligan
put on
and
Eric
baby
Carr.
driver both. Huh?
How about Eric Carr makeup?
I've never done Eric Carr. I've had some people ask me to do Eric Carr, and I've never done Eric Carr, so I'm going to have to do that.
You should
What's
do
that?
the live version of Young and Wasted.
There you go.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Did I get the gold anniversary vinyl love gun? I think I have it on order. I'll have to look and see though. I think it might be one of the albums. Huh?
Rick did. I saw
Rick did? Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, we're going to get out of here. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. And we'll see you hopefully next Wednesday. I'll come up with some kind of topic. Other than that, we'll get together and we'll hang out. We'll figure out something. But I'll see you in the next one. Be looking for that post coming up for the next round of brackets.
See y'all.
All right, everybody have a good evening, everybody. See you next week. Thanks for hanging out.